They sat in the front row on opposite sides of the aisle at opposite ends of their pews. They were there to see and be seen. They were the same age almost to the day. They lived about a mile apart, similar houses. They ran in all the same social circles, although, to be fair, in our small mountain town, there was kind of like just one social circle and everybody was in it. They were both widows. One had buried 3 husbands, while the other had just been married the one time. They had belonged to that congregation since Moses went up the mountain. And to hear the one talk, she herself taught Moses and Aaron how to lay out an altar. At first glance, second glance, third glance, at any glance that you gave them, you would have thought that these 2 matriarchs of the church should have been 2 peas in a pod. But they had differences. They didn't see eye to eye. Okay, face it, they hated each other. But you know, whenever something came up and we needed help at the church, they said yes. A woman's tea, sewing fine linens for the altar, they always said yes. And it kind of got to be, well, interesting to me, because I find people interesting. They had dueling coffee hours. Whenever one had coffee hour that week, she would go to Safeway and she would get these big, beautiful trays of the fancy cookies and the little sandwiches and the fruit, and she'd lay it out and it would look wonderful. And the other one, whenever she had it, she would say, well, you know, I'm not that good at those kind of things, but I'll do my best. And then she would meticulously sit at home and cut little finger sandwiches. And her glory, her moment, was what she called her Sputnik. This was toothpicks of little cubes of cheese and little pieces of fruits all stuck into a grapefruit. And that was her centerpiece, and she was so proud of that. But each time she had the coffee hour, the other one would make snarky, nasty comments about how stupid that Sputnik looked, and the finger sandwiches weren't cut perfectly, and never quietly, but everybody could hear that. And then when she did coffee hour, the other one would say, well, yeah, I could afford those big fancy cookie trays too if I saved my money by not putting it in the collection plate. But these 2, they never let each other's, they've been feuding for so long, forever. But you know, they never let those snarky comments that one or the other made about them steal their joy in serving their church. But what all of that snarky comments, etc. did, it stole everybody else's joy. And it kept other people from saying yes to helping out with things because they were afraid of being criticized, mocked, and ridiculed, not just by those ladies, by other people. They had seen it happen to these 2 who, you know, they were steel magnolias. Nothing was going to hurt them. But they were so afraid that their resounding, joyous yes got stuck in their throats. Today is what we call Rose Sunday. You saw when they lighted the candles, the pink one, or the rose-colored one got lighted. This is the day that we set aside to honor Mary, the mother of Joseph. Oh, mother of Joseph. Told you I'm Swiss cheese today. The mother of Jesus. Thank you. You all got to keep me in line sometimes. Now, when I think of Mary, do you know how old she was?
89.
Maybe when she passed. No. In that day and age, their custom was a girl was betrothed to marry at the age of 12. And if you were 15 and unmarried, you were an old maid. So Mary, when Gabriel shows up and says, "Hello, woman," come on, more like, "Hello, little girl. God's got something for you to do." Mary gave a joyous yes. Now, do you think there was going to be any wagging tongues over that one? A teenager, pregnant, and not married. But Mary didn't let the wagging tongues, and let's face it, there's going to be a lot of them back then. She didn't let them steal her joy. She said yes to what God was asking of her. I have, however, always thought, later we read in Luke about how Mary's cousin Elizabeth is pregnant with John the Baptist, and Mary goes to stay with Elizabeth. I've often thought, yeah, mutual support, but I think possibly to escape some of the wagging tongues in her hometown for a bit too. But Mary didn't let wagging tongues steal her joy or keep her from saying yes. And I've often wondered, in that wonderful little mountain congregation, what would have been accomplished if these two matriarchs, pillars of the church, had simply supported each other and uplifted each other in what they did for the church and the community? And what more could have been accomplished? What phenomenal things could have been built if those two lovely ladies had actually joined together on a project? Holy moly, I saw what they could accomplish individually. Can you imagine what could have been built in that community if the two of them got together? I wonder how many of you have ever had your yes stuck in your throat because of fear of ridicule, because of fear of being put down or criticized. I didn't think I could be the only one. I didn't think I could be the only one. I said no to God for 30 years because of the ridicule and the criticism. By the way, you see what happens. God isn't really interested in no being an answer. So, but so much could be done if we can be encouraged to say yes. I'll give you an example. Mother Teresa. How many of you know the story of Mother Teresa? A few. She was 18 when she became a nun. She had a heart for mission, so she went over to India to serve. As a still young woman, she was on a train traveling from Calcutta back to Darjeeling when she says she heard the voice of Jesus say to her, "Come, be my light. Serve the poorest of the poor." You think she had some critics? Oh yeah. She had so many critics. She had to beg. She had to cajole. It took her 10 years just to convince the Catholic Church to let her start the Missionaries of Charity. She didn't let anyone steal her joy in answering Christ's call. She wouldn't let anyone stifle her yes. Do you know who her biggest critic and doubter was? herself. Because she said later in life that she heard God's voice once and once only, and that was on the train. And she went on to do everything that she did on the faith alone that she was answering God's call. Because she doubted it every day of her life after that. Do any of you know anyone? Can you think of anyone that you know or have heard of who said yes with joy despite the critics? Anybody? Tell me who.
My parents.
Your parents?
I was born in 1955, and after me, there were 7 other children during a period of zero population, concern about resources, and my parents lived such faith-filled lives, you know, and yes was a big word of my dad, saying yes and trusting that it'll work out. You know, they were criticized for not being able to give each child what they needed financially, what they were taking from other people, you know, and
Wow.
they persevered.
Wow.
I remember many times, you know, something happening, let's gather around and pray. You know, and it wasn't in a holier now way, it was truly a faith.
They saw it as a blessing. Just as Mary said, from now on, all generations will call me blessed. There's a lot of trepidation in that yes, but it was still joyous. Does anybody else have an example from their lives, somebody they know? Wow. Or we're just quiet and waiting to eat. We're just a couple weeks away from the start of the best year Faith Family has ever had.
All right.
The best year. And my encouragement to you is to be like Mary, to be like Teresa, to be like Mary, right? Mary's parents. And don't let this yes get stuck in your throat. My pledge to you is this. Any ideas that you have, they're good ideas. Any project that you want to get organized has great potential. Every single one. We're not going to criticize, we're going to uplift each other. If you've got a yes stuck in your throat, we're going to sing it out with joy, with glory. There's only 2 criteria. Only 2. One, that God is praised. Because that's what we do, right? We're a church. The other is that all people are loved. That's what it's all about. It's real simple. If God is praised and all people are loved, we're going to do it. We're going to start saying yes with joy, and we're not going to let anybody rob us of that joy. Who's with me? All right, so repeat after me.